Great.
Since 1887, the Stonington Free Library has been a center for knowledge, ideas, creativity, and entertainment. It is a comfortable and welcoming community space for the town of Stonington, Connecticut, where all ages can explore, discover, gather, and learn within a building of distinctive and unique architecture. This video program is an evolution to expand the offerings of the library to share directly in your home or organization. Welcome to the Thoughtful Thursdays speaker series, made available to you by the Stonington Free Library.
So we want to welcome Sophia this evening. Sophia is a photographer and designer based out of Mystic, where she's the Education Associate for the Lyman Allyn Art Museum. Through their outreach program, she's able to bring art education to the walls outside of the museum and into the community through programs such as this. Sophia has earned degrees and certificates from Wheaton College and Tufts University. She works primarily with photography, both analog and digital, but also works with painting and graphic arts. The majority of her pieces explore her interests in narratives and human nature, relationships, and identity. So thank you, Sophia, for bringing this program to the Stonington Free Library this evening.
Thank you for having me. So hello, everyone. As I was introduced, I'm Sophia. I'm the outreach coordinator at the Lyman Allyn. I've been there for about 4 years. So I'm excited to work with you all today. So in your kit, you should, in your tote bag, you should have had a notebook, either black or brown. Tucked in there were 2 small pieces of magazine. You each got 2 random images I just sorted through. So it's on one of the sides. I tucked them in there to try to keep them a little bit flat. You should have a glue stick, and I dumped my pencils out, but a box of colored pencils. So you can also, if you have other drawing materials you prefer to work with at home, you can certainly grab them. I know sometimes I often start with a regular pencil, just so I can always erase it. Some people prefer markers, even crayons, anything's really fine, but colored pencils I figured is a good medium to start with. So the program today is No Mistakes in Art, which sounds very simple, and it's that way for a reason. So oftentimes I know around late elementary school, middle school, I see it with the kids I teach. I know from my own experience, especially being in art school, people get very self-conscious about their artwork, their abilities, and then of course making mistakes. So we like to kind of embody a little bit of a Bob Ross mentality, and this is just kind of, there's no mistakes. You can always change it. You can always adapt it. Sometimes you do have something in mind, and maybe, I don't like to call them mistakes. I say change your mind. So I want you to just take one of the images you have. I know you all had a wide variety of them, and then just glue it onto your paper. So here I have, I'm trying to find my camera. I have one image of grass, like a cartoon image, of 2 people laying in a park. So that's my mistake. That's the image I'm going to create from. I have another one on another page that I think I might work with today. Just a colorful flower. So just take some time, glue it onto your page wherever you want. Typically when I'm doing this in person, I have it pre-glued on paper, but I wanted to let you decide which image you want to start with today. So just glue it on, whichever one. Like I said, I'm going to do this one. And just try to create your own image around it. It doesn't need to be super realistic. It doesn't need to make sense. It can be something more surrealist. It could just be expanding on it. It's just to kind of get an idea of creativity, not being afraid of just experimenting. That's also why I gave you these notebooks. So that way you might be using the 2 pages today or even on another day with the images I provided. But that way you also have kind of a smaller notebook to just sit around and draw, just doodle. I just usually do abstract shapes. So you can go ahead and get started. I'm just gonna mute myself, just I'm near the highway, so I don't want any background noise. But as I said, if you have any questions about what you're doing, about the museum, feel free to unmute yourself. I'm not sure how many of you have come to visit us over at the Lyman Allyn. I would recommend coming to visit. We are free for everyone through September 5th. If you want something to do, air conditioned, it's masked. We still have a mask policy for everyone. And we have some wonderful exhibitions up right now. You can keep working while I'm talking. Yep, you can go ahead and start talking. Start drawing. So I'm going to start drawing myself. And as you're drawing, you can just listen for a minute. So right now, actually closing this weekend, if you have not come to visit, we have Memories and Inspirations, which is the Betty and Carrie Davis collection of African American art. It's a collection of 62 pieces of their hundreds of pieces that they own, all featuring African American artists. That is beautiful. It is closing this Sunday. So if you have not had a chance to come visit, I highly recommend coming to see the exhibition. We were lucky enough to kind of grab a spot on this tour. We were the only location in the Northeast, so pretty much north of Baltimore, that we was able to kind of get this on view. It's beautiful pieces of work that range from printmaking to sculpture, paintings, drawings, etchings, which is really wonderful. We also have the Prismatic Palette. So that's the work of Frank Vincent Dumond and his students. Dumond was a landscape painter, portraitist, draftsman who worked in New York and also came and worked in Lyme. So some of the pieces are beautiful landscapes based in Lyme, Connecticut. And just some really beautiful pieces by him and some by some of the students he taught. And then we of course have our permanent collection. We also have works by Anna Flores on view downstairs. She is a sculptor, painter who works mostly with the environment. So she is based in Rhode Island and Nova Scotia. And so she has some beautiful pieces in our downstairs Glassenberg gallery and actually 2 sculptures outside in our garden. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you work on your own for a little bit, but if you have any questions, please feel free to either send me a chat message or you can go ahead and unmute yourself while we work.
Hi, Sophia. Sophia, hi. I came in late. What are we supposed to draw right now?
Oh, so not a problem. So that you should have had 2 pieces of
Yes.
magazine. So just pick anyone. You're just going to glue it on your page. You can kind of see I started going, glue it on, and we're acting as that is our mistake. So we're just working on kind of taking something that we think doesn't belong. We weren't intending to be there. We weren't planning on being a part of our artwork or drawing today. And just kind of working around it and adapting it into a new kind of image. So pick anyone, glue it anywhere on your page, and then you can start drawing.
So you want me to more or less do my interpretation of this little drawing, this little sticker?
Either your interpretation, so you can either glue it. So actually there's a couple ways. You can glue it on. So I glued mine onto my page. I'm going to create a drawing around it. You can also take an image. So let's say I have an image here. And maybe I just want to create a backstory for this. So imagine if this is a page in a book. This is one of the pages. What is the next illustration going to look like? What is this story? How am I going to create a story around this?
Okay.
It doesn't have to be realistic. I tend to lean more abstract, but there's no mistakes in art. So it's kind of your own interpretation is fine. It's just kind of a way to kind of let loose, kind of relax, draw.
Okay. I got it. I think I have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very low stakes art class.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We do have one more person who just entered and might need a little explanation as well.
Absolutely. So anyone who's just starting, welcome. We are working on our kind of freestyle drawing today, as I like to call it. So you have two little magazine images that were tucked into one end of your notebook. There's really no front or back, so they're just one side of it, so check both. And you can, there's a couple options. You have a glue stick in your kit. You can certainly glue it onto your page like I've done, and kind of create an image around the magazine piece. Or you can also just take it, and so I have another piece here. You can also use this as inspiration. So kind of tuck it here and imagine that's a page from a book, or even like a concept piece for a movie or TV show, and you're trying to create a story around it. How would that influence your drawing? With my flower, I'm going to go a little bit more abstract. That's more of my drawing style. Drawing is not my medium for art making. So just kind of take it, and whichever method you think works best for you, go ahead and follow that one. I will also say, if while you're working, you find it annoying having your page still stay in the notebook, feel free to rip it out. If it's kind of bugging you having that spine in your way, this is your artwork. So do whatever feels best and most comfortable for your art makings.
Sophia, I think we had one more person join. If you don't mind doing a brief overview of our project.
Not a problem. So welcome. So today we're doing a very low stakes kind of working with what we have and kind of figuring out what we're doing. So in your kit, you should have two small magazine images that have been tucked into one of the sides of your notebook. There was no real front, so I just kind of shoved them in one of the sides. So just take a look for them. And what we're doing is actually there's a couple ways you can do this to see whichever one is most comfortable for you. Or you could do one of each. So you can certainly glue your image onto a piece of one of the pages of your notebooks and create an image around that. So you can see I'm kind of starting to make a more abstract image with this color wheel flower. You can also certainly take the image and just keep it in front of you for now and kind of create your own story based on it or be inspired by it. So it could be the colors. It could be if this is the first page in a book or even a book cover or the storyboard for a movie. What will be coming after this? What kind of image does this come to mind? And it doesn't necessarily have to be realistic. Don't get concerned of it focusing too much on your drawing ability. I'm not naturally a drawer. I definitely lean more towards the abstract types of art with drawing and painting. So I just want you to kind of take this image and kind of just use your imagination. This is really just kind of knocking off those cobwebs, working on just kind of getting our creativity going. There's no right or wrong way to do this. So we're just kind of jumping into it and just working with colored pencils today, but you can always use another material if you have that at home as well, or even do a little bit of a mixture if you have colored pencils and markers, even Sharpie. If you did do Sharpie, I'd recommend tucking something underneath just so it doesn't bleed through. So if there's any other questions about, I know this is a very low stakes, very independent project. But if anyone has any other questions about the museum or anything at all, please feel free to ask. So I just had a question in the chat. For anyone interested in other museum programs, you can certainly be added to an email list. you can always email me directly at the museum if you want to be on the list for other offerings. You can also, so my work email is Gipstein, so Gipstein at lymanallyn.org. I can always type that into the chat too for anyone who wants that visual. You can also go onto our website, so lymanallyn.org, and on there has all of our upcoming programs. We're still working out the fall, but that will always list all of our programs for adults and kids. If anyone has children, grandchildren that they think might be interested in coming over to see us. Oh, thank you, Carla. So that has our website, and that has a lot of our programs, and we update that frequently. So we're in the process of planning our fall art history for all class and some other programs. And kind of as everyone, with us figuring out how we're coming out with this COVID and the new strain, we're trying to figure out how to do everything safely. Oh, and thank you for typing my email as well.
You're very welcome.
So the question for someone who can illustrate a children's book, I do not know personally. But I'm sure if you look online, you can always find it. Or even, yeah, I'm not even sure who you would find that. I don't know anyone personally who could do that, other than kind of just looking online, or maybe even asking some other, even like reaching out to existing illustrators if there's someone you like their particular style, to reach out to them or their representation to kind of get ideas. So I'm sorry, I can't really help with that question. In case you didn't see this, someone recommended going on Facebook for looking for illustrators. I would also recommend, I don't know if you're active on Instagram, but that also is a great place. And depending on who you're asking, coming to mind, you could even reach out to local universities or anything who has illustrator programs. So I went to the SMFA, so the School Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, which is now part of Tufts. But reaching out to art schools, we're also close to RISD, and reaching out to those schools because they might know someone as well. Or depending on the type of book, you could also ask an artist or a graduate student who might be interested in doing it, and also looking for a way to kind of get into the industry as well. Hope everyone's doing all right. It's hard to do these on Zoom since I'm usually walking around a room and checking over people's shoulders and kind of talking to people as they work. So if anyone ever wants to share the progress on their picture, please feel free, since I know otherwise this is pretty quiet program.
I'll share mine. It's hard to see, but my prompt was a girl with this sort of wheelie cart. And so I drew a path and then a child, maybe it's a wheelchair, and she's pushing her friend who's holding a dog.
Oh, I love that. I'm going a little bit more abstract with mine, just a flower, but I just work better with shapes than anything. Anything too hyper realistic. I usually find that more soothing. And I'm also very, very interested in how colors always work together. Color theory and that style of artwork is always so fascinating to me.
We have a question in the chat. Any tips about using colored pencils in general?
I like to start out lighter, so I tend to kind of draw, especially if I don't have a regular, actually I do have a regular pencil, which I think was in your kit. I didn't start drawing with a regular pencil, but I start kind of lightly just to make sure I know what the color is. So also if you have a scrap piece of paper nearby, when you ever have colored pencils, especially if you ever have like a bigger set, I'll sometimes use a scrap piece of paper and just kind of test it out over there. So you can see kind of on the corner of this envelope. Oops. I just did a little like scratch. So that way I know what color I'm getting. Because sometimes this set is pretty good where the color of the whole pencil matches pretty evenly with what actual colors inside of it. But sometimes I know you will get a colored pencil where it might just be a little off. So sometimes I'll just test it out on another piece of paper to know what color I'm getting. With colored pencil, I just got general sketch notebooks for you all. So this is good mostly for pencil marker, probably if you, again, maybe put something underneath just to make sure you don't get any bleed through. Always have a good pencil sharpener. I think that's one thing a lot of people don't have around as much. But you want to keep it sharp. I don't even like my colored pencils this sharp. But also it's just also playing with pressure too. So I do lightly, but maybe you just use a page of your sketchbook and kind of do mark making, kind of experiment with it. I think we've all grown up using colored pencils, or they've always been around, but you don't really think of them as doing think of them in artwork. So actually there is a piece in Memories and Inspirations. It's a beautiful big drawing that is all done in colored pencil. So it's a medium I don't think people think of as associate with fine art, but kind of just seeing what you can do with it. So just experimenting with it. So maybe you take a page of your notebook and kind of figure out what pressure you're doing, different ways of drawing. Are you cross hatching? So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's kind of where you shade, I'm gonna do it on this envelope real quick. It's kind of where you kind of color and shade by doing a bunch of lines. I can never remember where my camera is here. So experimenting with how you're coloring in, maybe you're not always coloring it in traditionally, kind of like I've been doing, where I'm coloring it in kind of sideways, and figuring out different ways of using it. So those are my main tips. And also, most of the color pencil you can't actually erase. So if you have a good eraser, maybe not necessarily on your pencil, but a good old fashioned like Rubbermaid eraser or any other type of artist eraser, you can erase colored pencil, which is kind of cool. So maybe even experimenting on what kind of textures and effects that has. All right, we're coming up to about the last 10-ish minutes. If anyone else wants to share progress on their drawing, anyone who hasn't shared already, I am still plugging away. I am the type of person who will sit for hours doing this. When I'm at work, I do example projects to get a break from the screen. I usually will put on music or a podcast and kind of zone out for a couple hours working. So if you're not done, by all means, there is no rush. Gonna go ahead and assume everyone's silence means you're concentrating very hard on your artwork. If there's any other questions, please feel free to ask. I will remind anyone, especially those who might have been late, the Lyman Allyn is offering exhibitions.
I thought maybe you froze for a sec. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. We do have some in-person programs coming up. So we do have, as part of Anna Flores's exhibition, she has been doing a series of conversations outside. Her work focuses primarily on conservation. And so she has been doing these forest dialogue series. And there will be another talk coming up in September on the third Sunday at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. If you go to our website, that is in the chat. If you go to events and lectures, that has all of our upcoming events and information on that. If anyone is also interested in doing some garden yoga at the museum, we have been offering that this summer once a month. So you can certainly go and look at that and check out our garden and kind of be below the Deshawn Allen House, which is part of our museum, where our founder originally grew up or lived. So if anyone has any other questions, please do feel free to ask. You can always send me an email too if you think of something after the program ends or another time. Do feel free to send an email as well. And I can certainly answer your questions there. Oh, you're welcome. And that includes other writing prompts for any, if anyone has any other questions, if you're kind of looking on mixing up how to draw and fill up your lovely notebooks, you can always come to the museum and take your hand at sketching in our galleries. We have our permanent collection downstairs, which is American art ranging from the 1800s through the 21st century. And then we have our Tiffany in New London program exhibition, which features some wonderful stained glass and some paintings by Louis Comfort Tiffany. And then of course, we have our dollhouse, which if anyone has come to visit may know. And feel free to also cut out your own images to continue if this is a style you kind of liked. Feel free to cut up your own newspapers or magazines to keep going.
I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening and for sharing your creations. And I hope that you can keep using your materials and visit the Lyman Allyn and see some of the things that Sophia has been telling us about.
You're welcome. And our address is on the handy tote bag we gave you. So if you need the address of our museum, and our website is actually on your bag as well. So most of the contact information you want is there. You can also follow us on social media. If you are on Instagram or Facebook, we even have a Spotify account. So if you want to listen to some art themed music based on our exhibitions, you can follow us on Spotify. And draw to some of our curated playlists as well.
And thank you for all the nice comments. This was great. I was afraid to apply pressure at first, but now I'm getting more color. Thanks so much. So wonderful to have a new way to relax and quiet the mind. Very relaxing. This was creative. I get bogged down in the details and miss the creativity. So thank you everyone for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Have a great night, everybody.